Ah, so I love teaching this part of the three parts. So to review, the first part is knowing. It can be intellectual. It can start as intellectual. We don't want it to stay intellectual. We want it to get into our heart, mind, body, soul. But we have to intellectually start to know a truth. Often people try to move from knowing. I've seen this in my life, and I'm one of those people that my whole life I've been blessed with seeing both sides. I had wonderful people around me that were deeply spiritual, but I also had a home life that was very chaotic and actually abusive. And so I got to see both sides all the time. And the result of that for me was I always kind of dissected. Why is it this way here and not that way here? You know, what's different? What's missing, or what's maybe not understood or not being expressed? And I didn't use those words as a child, of course, but that's what I did. And I'm really, in a strange way, I'm not grateful that there was the abusive part. Of course, we don't really want that, but it really taught me to see the world from both. And hold and choose which one I want to be a part of. And also choose to understand it. I had to really learn to understand why would that be happening, right? And my extended family was very loving, and like the story I told about my aunt, very loving and wonderful, and my grandparents were awesome. They taught me unconditional love, absolutely. So did the minister I spent time with traveling as she was building new churches across our state. Then when I had to be in school, I spent time with the secretary, the church secretary, and her husband. They didn't have children, so they loved me. I would stay with them for sometimes weeks at a time because I had a sister who was terminally ill and in and out of hospital a lot. So I got to see such opposite aspects of life, right? And the people that do the things that can be hurtful, they're hurting when they do it. We may not know why. We may never know why. They're hurting. It doesn't justify it. It doesn't mean we need to accept it and be treated badly. But if we can remember that, we won't add to it in the world at large. And then we also won't carry it with us. Because carrying it with us prevents us from being one with our divine essence. Think about it. Anything that we embrace that causes us to think less of ourselves than our loving God, our loving Creator, thinks of us, feels for us. It's like a little separation there. So there's this beautiful, loving presence of God. I grew up thinking of God as source of everything, source of life. It's what got me through the tough times as a little child, literally, is I would turn to source. And I know that was a gift I was given, to be placed in an environment that would teach me that at such a young age. That's what got me through the abusive times, the times that were really scary and painful and so confusing for a child. So I would turn to source. And it always worked. It always worked. Always. It always helped. It always moved me forward. It always helped me understand. It always helped me see it differently. It always guided me to make choices that I would begin to step out of harm's way. I would get through it, right? So if we embrace an idea from the world, and it can be in your personal environment, or it can be in the world at large, and just watching the news and things that go on, there's a lot of things that happen that are, it's weird. There are a lot of institutional situations, rather, you might say, that they actually deliberately are striving to gain from people in pain, right? We see that, the benefit of social media is that we see more of it. The downside of social media is that we see more of it, because then it's bombarding us. We don't want to get lost in it. Like Jesus said, we want to be in the world, but don't become of it, right? So when we see the things in the world that are less than the love and the truth and the beauty that we choose to consciously co-create with our divine creator. We have to learn to be in this state of awareness, but don't become one with something you don't want to create more of. Vibrationally giving our attention, we will become one with something, and we will create more of it. We will fuel it with our energy and focus. If we stay irritated, if we stay agitated, if we stay sad, if we stay angry, we are literally fueling that which we are angry or sad or irritated about. We want to use the irritation, the sadness, the anger, as an awareness, as an awakening. I don't want to be a part of this in the world. How do I change that within me? Not how do I make others be different to stop it. How do I be the change within myself that will guarantee I am creating more of what I do want, more of what I value as a spiritual person, and less of what I don't want to see. So we don't turn away as if we don't see it. We just don't stay fixated on it, or even in the midst of the energy of it, to such an extent that we start to become one with it, because that separates us from our connection to Source. And we are of no use to anyone at that point. We cannot be powerful co-creators if we are not one with the essence of God, the essence of life force, which is love and truth and beauty and joy and peaceful power and harmony, a flow of harmony, an allowing of one another to be the unique expression we are, the unique divine expression we are. So I have something kind of fun to share with you. The book we're using this month for our series is called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. It's by Vishen Lakhiani. He's the founder of Mind Valley Academy. They have wonderful, wonderful teachings on YouTube. And it's in your program too, but if you want to see the book, it's at the right hand on the bottom, the reference book. And I love his teachings. He personally teaches a lot, but he has a collection of amazing teachers. So he teaches a concept that uses a bad word, but I'm going to teach it anyway. I'm going to share it anyway.
Do it.
It's a 4-letter word that starts with F. I think we all know that word, right? I know it can be a word that some people don't like. So we're going to replace that with, instead of saying un-F-withable, if that bothers you, unmess-withable. Now, I don't get upset by words because it's the intention behind the word that matters. That very word can be used in a wonderful sense of humor. Mm-hmm. It can be used to release some energy that needs to be released without hurting anybody, not spoken to somebody, just releasing. But it can also be used in an ugly way that's harmful. But so can a lot of words. Not any one word in and of itself has power. It's the energy behind it, the intention, right? So he has a chapter in his book, and it's called Be Un-F-Withable, Unmess-Withable, if you prefer that, okay? And it's teaching us how to be fear-proof. And he quotes Yoda from Star Wars. Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. So this is another way of looking at how to be non-attached and yet still have a lot of passion. Okay. So he says, how to be a spiritual badass. There is a great myth in spirituality today that in order to be spiritual, we must resign ourselves from the world. In other words, to be spiritual, one must avoid big goals, ambitions, and wealth. Rubbish. I believe the most spiritual people in the world today are those who are doing things to push the human race forward. To be extraordinary is to be connected to this spiritual aspect of yourself and to feel it move you to create, change, invent, and rattle the world. How about that? Rattle the world. He says, we don't have to choose between Buddha or badass. The idea is to be both. Indeed, sometimes the only way to be effective at one is to master the other. So let me talk about that. I'm going to read a little bit more here. To master our energy field, which is the same as mastering our consciousness, because it's our consciousness that's creating our energy field. To have mastery of that gives us sovereignty of our energy field. We are then a spiritual badass and a Buddha at the same time. A Christ. That's how Christ was the light in the world that we call the Christ consciousness. He mastered his energy field. He was sovereign. That's how those miracles happened. That's how every miracle we experience happens and will ever happen. We have to be one with the divine essence of the miracle. The moment we ask, it's given. It's right here. It's like swirling around us energetically. Well, we can't pull it into manifestation, into this third dimensional reality, until we become one with that essence. The essence of it. Not the thing itself, not the money we want, not the lover we want, not the love life we want, not the joy we want, not the experience, the car, the clothes, the health in our body, not the physicalness, the essence of it. The essence of it. Think about the difference between intellectually observing, I want a certain fitness level or health, healing in my body, versus feeling the essence of just feeling wonderful in your body. There's a big difference. It's the essence that we want to be one with. And when we do that, we're being one with the spiritual essence of it, the divine essence of it, because God is in everything. And when we align with that divine essence, all of our power then comes from that divine essence, and now we can focus and flow and create. We're co-creating with divinity. That's what we came here to do, in a way that is a unique expression of our divine essence. So he's going to go ahead and he's going to go on to give a couple of stories about it. He says, it is possible to move toward a goal or to be madly in love with someone without attachment. Often what we really fear is not losing the other, the goal or the person we love, but losing the part of ourselves that this someone or something makes us feel. So we get confused that the feeling that is evoked in a situation, good or bad, is about the person or the situation. It's not. That person is a divine rendezvous to evoke something in us for our own awareness. And when we know that, we can observe it, feel everything we feel, and not get attached to it has to be different on the outside. It will be different on the outside when it becomes different on the inside. But if we're trying to make it different on the outside first, now we're at war with the world. That's where all the wars come from. That's where all the arguments come from. Right? So he goes on to give some examples. Now, his definition, let me give you that. Definition of unmessable is when you're truly at peace and in touch with yourself. Nothing anyone says or does bothers you, and no negativity can touch you. Meaning it can't change you. You observe it, it does not change you. Now, isn't that a great way to live? Anybody else want to live more like that? Yeah, I agree. I agree. He goes on to say, extraordinary minds do not need to seek validation from outside opinion or through the attainment of goals. Instead, they are truly at peace with themselves and the world around them. They live fearlessly, immune to criticism or praise. And they are fueled by their own inner happiness and self-love. Now, he's not saying not to seek goals, not to seek beautiful, loving connection with others at all. And he goes on to explain that. There's two components. We're going to talk about one this week and one next week. The first component is self-fueled goals. So he talks about A goal, a good end goal is something you have absolute control over. No object or person can take it away from you. He calls that a self-fueled end goal versus a means goal. A means goal is like, I get in my car to drive somewhere. The end goal is the experience you will have when you arrive. But to get there, you need the means goal. But if that's the only thing that mattered to you, you would miss out on the real reason you drove to the place like this, for example, to be here today. You would miss out on being fully present here once you got here. If you were stuck at the level of means goals, activities, outer instead of inner experience, being more valuable, right? We want both. We want to enjoy both. We have to understand that what fuels them is from within. So he goes on to say, talks about when he shifted some goals like this. He said, when I shifted goals, like he had some goals, he talks about a few of his goals. First he said to be in a loving relationship with his wife. A second goal was, this was before he had this shift, to be close to his children. And he shifted that from, rather than to be in a loving relationship with his wife and to be close to his children, he changed that goal to be consistently surrounded by love. Now, it's not that he doesn't still want to be close to his children and still want to be very much in love with his wife, but if he's putting the focus on his wife, do you see how, in a way, it's actually kind of selfish? If she's having a bad day and he doesn't feel loved by her all of a sudden, well, now what's he going to do? Make her change? Make her magically always be happy? That's not fair to her. She needs to have the full range of expressing everything in her life without saying, well, I can't ever express that because it upset my husband. You see how without realizing it, we kind of start this tangled web with each other where we limit one another for selfish reasons. Same thing with the children. To always be close to my children. Well, children go through phases, right? What happens when they turn teenagers?
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, and so in a moment, he's not feeling close to like one of his children. Oh, well, now, oh gosh, he's a miserable. He's failed as a father would be the result. You see how, but instead, to be consistently surrounded by love. Well, he can feel their love even if he's not close to them. What if they move across the world? Like he lives across the world from his parents, right? So this is how he changed it. So and he goes on to say, when I shifted these goals, he changed it to be close to my children to be the best father I can be. Now, do you see how that's based entirely on him? With self-fueled within himself, learning how to be in the essence of a good father. Not to be a good father, I have to do A, B, and C, but because it will be a fluid experience as the children evolve and expand, what that child needs for him to be a good father to them in that moment. Same thing with the marriage. And then he had another goal with this business. So he goes on to say, when I shifted these goals, my mind's guidance system kicked in, pulling me into opportunities and situations to attain them. My relationships improved significantly. Neediness on my end stopped. Wouldn't that be a great way to live? And it is. Most of us live that way, don't we? When we don't feel we need something from another person, we give ourselves permission to enjoy something from another person without needing it. Because we are capable of being joyful, happy, peaceful, alive, regardless of what anyone else is doing or saying. That's freedom, isn't it? And in that freedom, we're aligned with our divinity, and now we have access to the power that creates worlds to create an amazing experience in life for ourselves and everyone who ever shares that energy with us. That's how we want to live. That's what we do here, isn't it? That's exactly what we're here for. To do it within ourselves, to do it within our center, and then to share it in the world. Yeah. He goes on to say, I began to love and appreciate my own self at a level I never had before. Doing so freed me to be more loving and appreciative of others because, empowered by my own self-love, I stopped unfairly demanding love from others. Have you ever thought about that? Demanding love is unreasonable. Asking, desiring, but demanding? How about that?
I'll talk to you about this after.
Yes, we sure can.
Mother-in-law.
Demanding love is keeps us attached to something we may have no control over. Asking God to bring love, asking to be aligned with love in the universe, we have absolute control over that. And it will be given. Demanding it come through a specific person in a specific way at a specific time, we are setting ourselves up for a lot of chaos. And when we demand that, we are demanding. We're overbearing. We're trying to dominate someone else. Yeah. Now, we're going to talk in just a second about the flip side of that. When we're trying to relate to people who are doing that to us, how do we, that's the next question. Yeah, I knew that was going to come up. Okay, so let me go on to one more thing here. So he also went he had another goal, the goal about travel and adventure. To be true, I have to do this with a certain group of people or a certain person. So he just kept peeling away anything about his goals that was setting himself up to be attached to somebody else having to fulfill that goal for him or with him. Instead, self-fueled goals, being one with your own divine essence, and then sharing that in the world and trusting those who want to share that experience with you will be drawn to you. The universe will cause that rendezvous to happen in a much more easeful way than if you're walking around with a big hammer going, hey, you do this. I need you to do this. Because I don't feel good if you don't do this. I don't feel secure if you don't act a certain way, say a certain thing. We want to get our security from aligning with God. And that's why we start with the idea of knowing. Because when you know who you are, you understand it's illogical to require that security from other people in a human state when they're not aligned. And life, this illusion, the third dimensional world, which isn't the most true aspect of life. It's illogical to not go to the power that creates worlds as your source. And then allow that to rendezvous you with all these beautiful co-creative experiences that match that desire. And some of them you will create and some of them you will receive. Boy, that's a better way to do it, isn't it? I call that dancing with life force. It's this beautiful dance you do. Yeah. And then he had another goal about, he used to require himself to read, I think it was a book a week. I have to go through the notes again. But a lot of, a book every week, something like that. And he loves reading. So now he changed that goal to be, I am always learning and growing. Because he shifted from sitting and reading the book. Sometimes when his children were little, he really needed to be interacting with them, playing something with them, a game or outside of sports, not sitting and reading the book. And he was growing a business. So he was spending time in a lot of directions. So the reading the book a week worked really well when he was single and even when he was first married, but once with children, so that was starting to be a problem. So instead, he took some online courses, and he creates an amazing format for online training now, actually. And that's part of how he learned how to do that, what felt good and what didn't. And he, adjusted it and fine-tuned it and created something new. So you see how freeing yourself of, I want this feeling essence of something. And in order to have the feeling essence within me that I want, I have to make this thing out here be different. My goodness. We just might as well walk up to that wall and just bang our head. Right? We'll get a hole in the wall if that's our goal, but that's really not the reason to do it, is it?
It really hurt too.
It would hurt. Yeah, we could instead magnetize a carpenter to come in and put a window or a door there for us, right?
Consequences.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk about why. I'm going to go on and say one more thing about it. The ultimate beauty of self-fueled end goals. When you identify self-fueled end goals that put them within your power, you will have nothing to lose. Not love, not learning, not beautiful human experiences. You will be free to live life on your own terms and explore opportunities that might once have seemed out of reach or inconceivable. Replacing fear with courage is one of the key components of being unmessable. Yes, most people live their lives consistently bothered and worried about not being loved enough, not succeeding fast enough, not being significant, not being impressive, losing the things that make us happy, that we think make us happy, right? But when you let go of the BS rules of the world that tell you those are the things that matter, they're leading, those rules lead you, he calls them rules, they lead you to the wrong priorities. When you let go of that and look beyond those means goals, like I'm just driving in the car to get here as my entire aspiration of life, right? Getting a college degree just to say, oh, look at me, I'm so good, I got my college degree. Get the college degree for the joyful experience, absolutely. Very different from, okay, now I got it, so, hey, look how cool I am. It's such a shallow attainment, and you're never done because you have to keep doing it more and more and more. You're never done with it. So he says when you let go of those rules that are leading you to wrong priorities, you look beyond those means goals and you create self-fueled end goals. You've effectively bother-proofed yourself. You stop worrying about what others will think of you or might take from you, and you free yourself to dream big and be creative in other areas of your life. When you become unmessable, it doesn't mean you're settling for small goals. Instead, it means you've stopped setting goals for things you think you need to get from other people. Yeah. How about that? Sound good? All right, so let's talk about that second part real quick. What happens when we're trying to do that, and yet we find ourselves dealing with people who don't think that way? And it happens a lot in the world. At your job, let's say. It can happen in your neighborhood. It can happen in your home. It can happen in extended family. And the more often you have to be around that energy, I call it a dynamic. And if we can learn to think of it as a dynamic happening between two people, or a person and a situation, a group of people, then we don't make it personal against the person, right? Because we never know everything that's going on with anybody else. And when we can truly get to a point where we realize, given their life experience, given their level of spiritual awakening, they really are doing the best they can do. It doesn't mean they're not refusing to grow, getting scared. And when we get scared, we sometimes get kind of mean. We can be a little bit like a scared animal protecting ourselves, right? So it doesn't mean that what they're doing is something you need to continue to tolerate. That's a decision you have to make based on the situation and the relationship and you, where you are in your life. But you don't want to walk away mad. You want to, if you have to walk away, you want to walk away with love. Just let it go. They're doing the best they can. They're on their path. They might be going, maybe it seems like a snail's pace. Doesn't matter. At one time we did a snail's pace. If not in this lifetime, the one before, or the before, or before. We all start with baby steps. We all start with baby steps. So they might be in baby step mode. They might be tooling along and then they get scared and they fall down and everybody around them is going to get yelled at or something, right? And we all have people in our lives like that, don't we? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing the best they can. Doesn't mean you have to take any kind of abuse, anger, ugly treatment, anything like that. But for your own sake, just do your best to step back and observe. Okay, this person's hit a stuck point, what I call upper limiting. We're all trying to evolve and grow in every moment, whether we know it or not. Our soul is calling us forward. Some of us are listening and saying, okay, let's do this. And some people are not yet awakened. And those who are awakened, but we get kind of stuck sometimes on our way through something, which is all of us, and will be forever, for our whole life. We'll hit a point, we'll go through something, it'll be kind of easy, We'll kind of go, okay, that was, I'm changing. I used to think that was who I wanted to be. Now I've decided, no, I'm more evolved in who I want to be. And sometimes we go through that kind of, it's almost a breeze. And then sometimes we go through it and it's hard. Because there's something about it that scares us, an old belief of something we've got to hold on to, just like these goals he was talking about, that it depends on somebody else or something else. And when we get to that, even when we know it, remember, know, be, live, even when we know it, we won't break through that until we become one with the new evolved person we're choosing to be, which is just a more expanded version of our true self, who we already are, deep within. That part is never, it's untouchable. That's a good one too, untouchable, right?
Untouchable.
The part of us that is unmesswithable is our divine essence. It can never be altered. It can never be altered. We're born with it, we have it for eternity. It can never be altered. We just want to get better and better at being one with it, right? When you catch yourself trying to prove yourself, you have stepped out of your divine essence. You are now very messable. Because even in this beautiful group of loving souls right here, we each have unique preferences. And if I need to prove, I'll use me, if I need to prove by, let's say by how I'm dressed, if I need to prove myself to each and every one of you by how I'm dressed, there's probably not any one of you that's going to be 100% on board with how I choose to dress. At least you wouldn't choose it for you. You might be fine with it for me. But if I need you to validate that, well, I might as well not even show up because there's no way to please that, right? So when we get into that proving thing, then we go around trying to please other people, and we can't please everybody. The person we're really trying to please and prove our worthiness to is ourself.
Amen.
Ourself. And if we will connect with our divine self, we already have that proof. And then we don't strive for it. Then we enjoy how we dress or any other form of expression, rather than using it as this thing that can torment us. Instead, it's meant to be something to enjoy, expressing part of ourselves that way, right? The other thing to watch out for is when you find yourself placating somebody who's demanding. They get angry, they get sad, they get something. Always something. Something other than happy, right? And if you find yourself trying to placate that unhappiness, well, you can't do it because only they can do it. And now your entire focus in life is not about fueling your joy, your alignment, and expressing your magnificence. You're robbing everybody of knowing the true you because you're not being you. You're trying to be this person or that person. So will this please? Will this calm you? Will this cheer you? Oh my goodness, it goes on forever. And we kind of start feeling crazy when we do that. We do lose ourselves. That's going back to that quote from Jesus, being in the world but not of it. See, we become of somebody else's world, their perspective, instead of being one with our perspective, our divinenesses. So those are the things to watch out for. And if you can, when you find yourself being it, please be loving to yourself. When you see others do it, let's try our very best to be patient and loving. If it's harmful, get out of harm's way. Do so with love because you carry that energy with you. Do so with love to the best of your ability. Okay? So let's go through our meditation process. Thank you, Tom. So let's all take a deep breath. Exhale with sound. Get that vagus nerve activated. Another deep breath. Exhale with sound. And now a soft breath. And slowly, softly let it come out your fingers, your toes, and the crown of your head. Let everything dissipate that might distract you from being fully present. This month I'm reading a meditation to you, speaking as you. Here it is, your voice. Imagine a beautiful candle is lit in front of you. See the light. Hear the flicker. The candle is whatever color you'd like it to be. Take a whiff. Does it have a fragrance, or is it just the smell of the candle wax? This is your candle. This is your light in the world. Just stay focused on that beautiful candle as I read this beautiful, it's called Renew the Foundation. It's beautiful affirmations. In this moment, I acknowledge the absolute creator of the entire universe. This absolute energy, absolute intelligence, the absolute presence in and through all of creation is all that there is. I recognize the divine intelligence in all things and relax into the knowing that I am part of this intelligence and all of divine creation. I am a divine creation. Take a breath. Today, as I contemplate the perfection of the divine intelligence, I find myself in complete awe and gratitude, for I know that I am an individualized expression of this power and presence. Scripture confirms that knowingness by its statement that I am made in the image and likeness of it. I accept that knowingness as my truth. Wow, how powerful is that? I am capable of infinite possibilities because I am a divine emanation of the Most High. Take a breath, please. I speak forth a renewal to the foundation of my faith in the divine. I choose to create within me a new spirit, a clean heart full of love. My joy is restored within me. I love that I get to create my life. My journey continues with a renewed sense of purpose. My steps are guided by the divine whisper in my soul. Each step I take through my day is met with love and an ever-flowing bounty of possibilities. I keep my thoughts, my actions, stayed on the knowingness that I am creating a new world for myself. The desires of my heart are manifesting right here and now. My heart is open to infinite possibilities because I am vibrating with the One. I speak my truth into the universal mind of possibilities. My foundation has a new bond of water, protecting my mind, keeping it focused on my new reality of infinite possibilities. Take another breath, please. In gratitude for this renewal, for this divine freshness pouring in and around me, I give total thanks for the law of pure potentiality, which allows me to start anew with each and every day. From this place of potentiality, I release this spiritual mind treatment into the law of action, feeling the blessed assurance of the divine. I let it go and let it be so. Take one more breath, please. And now I want you to imagine the beautiful light of that candle radiating from within you, because it is you. This is your light, your divine light, your divine essence. Just feel one with it. Just let's take 1 minute of silence to feel one with this beautiful divine light that is your unique divine essence. As you go forth this week, remember this feeling, this essence is the truth of who you are. This is who you are. If you get lost in chaos, confusion, overwhelm, you find yourself trying to prove yourself or placate someone, remember, come back to this feeling. This is your divine essence. This is the truth of who you are. It is beautiful. It is magnificent. It is enough. It is how God created you. It is the absolute truth of you. And you are so loved being you.